In the world of botanical genetics, nature is a master of defense. When you try to alter the DNA of a living plant, when you try to force a flower to exhibit a trait it was never meant to have, the plant fights back. It mutates, it withers, it refuses to bloom. You cannot rush biology. It requires thousands of failed experiments, microscopic precision using CRISPR gene editing tools, and an agonizing level of patience that spans across years of your life. You have to nurture a living organism, protect it from rot, and wait for it to reveal its true colors. I spent my entire career isolating perfect genetic traits to create biological masterpieces. I just never realized that the most toxic, invasive weed I ever allowed to take root was thriving right inside my own home, slowly strangling the life out of my marriage. My name is Arthur. I'm 38 years old, and I am a master botanist and lead genetic engineer for specialized flora. 6 years ago, I married Chloe. Chloe was a high-end, luxury floral designer and event planner. She thrived in the glamorous, champagne-fueled world of billionaire weddings and royal galas. She loved the final, polished aesthetic of a $500 bouquet, but she absolutely despised the dirt, the humidity, and the grueling scientific labor it took to actually grow the flowers. We were a pairing of opposites, but I thought we were building a beautiful symbiosis. I grew the art, and she presented it to the world. For 7 long, exhausting years, I poured every ounce of my personal savings, my sanity, and my genius into my absolute magnum opus. I called it the Obsidian Star. It wasn't just a rare flower, it was a scientific miracle. Through years of genetic splicing and bioluminescent enzyme integration, I had successfully cultivated a completely black orchid that naturally glowed with a hypnotic, pulsing blue light in the dark. It required zero electricity, just water and soil. It was the absolute holy grail of the global horticultural industry. The exclusive cloning rights and federal patents for this single strain of DNA were conservatively appraised at $15 million. I promised Chloe this flower was our empire. I told her that when I finally perfected the genetic stability, we would license the strain, and she would be the most powerful, sought-after floral director on the planet. We would be set for life. But Chloe didn't want to wait for the roots to deepen. She looked at my dirt-stained hands, the endless nights I spent running DNA sequencers, and she decided she wanted the $15 million without having to endure the farmer. And she found a corporate shark who was more than happy to help her harvest my life's work. The decay in our marriage accelerated the moment Chloe's event agency was contracted by a massive global bioagricultural conglomerate. The CEO of that conglomerate was a man named Julian. Julian was 45 years old and the absolute poster boy for corporate arrogance. He didn't love nature, he monetized it. He wore $5,000 bespoke Italian suits, flew his private helicopter directly to his estates, and made his billions by patenting sterile, mass-produced chemical seeds that ruined independent farmers. He was a ruthless venture capitalist who treated brilliant biologists like disposable, ignorant peasants. Suddenly, Chloe was spending all her time at Julian's glass tower headquarters in the city, claiming she was advising him on a massive new luxury floral supply chain. The red flags didn't just quietly appear, they bloomed like a toxic algae bloom. First, the profound, unapologetic disrespect. Chloe started actively belittling my scientific process. "Arthur, you need to wake up," she scoffed one evening, tossing her $4,000 designer handbag onto our kitchen counter. "Julian manages a $500 million portfolio. He builds global monopolies. You've been sitting in a humid tent playing in the dirt for 7 years and haven't made a single dime. You lack corporate vision. Nobody cares about your scientific purity. They care about who controls the patent." Second, the intense, unnatural secrecy regarding her devices. Chloe changed the passcode on her phone and her laptop. She started taking crisis logistics calls in her car, sitting in the driveway with the engine running for 40 minutes before coming inside. Third, and by far the most terrifying, was her sudden, highly specific interest in the security of my greenhouse. Chloe, a woman who absolutely loathed the smell of fertilizer, suddenly asked me exactly which mother plants held the pure obsidian star DNA, and if the digital environmental logs were backed up to a physical hard drive. When a floral designer suddenly cares about the physical location of an unpatented multi-million-dollar biological asset, you don't answer the question. You check the soil for rot. When you have a biological asset worth $15 million growing unprotected in the soil, you don't just rely on a padlock. My entire 10,000 square foot greenhouse was routed through a custom telemetry mainframe. It monitored temperature, humidity, and CO2 levels. But to ensure absolute climate control, the system also utilized highly sensitive acoustic sensors that listened for the sound of failing water pumps or broken glass. One Saturday night, while Chloe was supposedly at a weekend bridal retreat in the city, my phone vibrated with a critical priority alert from the greenhouse. I pulled my truck into an empty parking lot, opened my secure server app, and tapped into the live acoustic feed. I didn't just find an affair, I found a premeditated, multi-million-dollar act of corporate espionage and biological sabotage. I heard footsteps echoing on the gravel floor of my sanctuary. It was Chloe and Julian. Because the greenhouse was dead quiet, the highly sensitive microphone picked up their conversation with crystal clarity. Julian was running his hand over the glowing, bioluminescent petals of my masterpiece. "This is it, Chloe. This is the Holy Grail. The Royal Botanical Gala in London is next weekend. If I present these glowing orchids to the European investors and claim my labs engineered the DNA, I will secure a $50 million global distribution monopoly overnight. Are the mother plants ready to move?" Chloe laughed, a cold, cruel sound that made the blood freeze in my veins. "Yes. Next Friday, Arthur is flying to a botany seminar in Chicago. While he's gone, I'll disable the alarms. You bring your climate-controlled transport trucks. We load all 20 of the mother plants. Before we leave, I'll pour industrial bleach into his primary hydroponic reservoir. It will circulate through the entire greenhouse and kill every remaining plant he has. We'll tell him a toxic fungal infection wiped out his life's work. He'll be completely devastated." Julian kissed her. "And the divorce?" Chloe sneered. "The papers are already drafted. He poured all our savings into this dirt. He's completely bankrupt. He won't have the money to fight your corporate lawyers. We take the $15 million patent, and I'll be living in your penthouse by the end of the month. He's just a naive gardener, Julian." I sat alone in the sweltering cab of my truck, staring at the glowing monitor as my entire reality shattered. My wife of 6 years was sleeping with a corporate parasite. Together, they were actively plotting to steal 7 years of my blood, sweat, and genius, intentionally poison my remaining life's work with bleach, debut my masterpiece to billionaires in London, and leave me utterly destroyed and destitute. They thought I was just a naive gardener. They didn't understand the level of absolute, unmitigated biological destruction a master geneticist is capable of cultivating. If you want to destroy a thief, you don't lock the vault. You leave the vault wide open, but you replace the gold with highly unstable dynamite. I didn't confront her. If I did, Julian's army of corporate lawyers would bury me in injunctions, claim Chloe was a legal partner in my business, and tie the flowers up in court for a decade while they withered and died. I needed them to steal the plants. I needed Julian to proudly present my creation to the most elite, ruthless botanical critics and investors on the planet. So I went to work on the cellular level. That night, while Chloe was fast asleep, I went into the greenhouse. Working with absolute, agonizing precision, I carefully extracted the real, priceless obsidian star mother plants. I packed their root systems in specialized nutrient gel, loaded them into my truck, and quietly moved them to a highly secure, private, climate-controlled vault at a university where a colleague of mine worked. Then, I turned my attention to the remaining, visually identical but genetically inferior test batch plants that I had planned to discard. To the naked eye, and even to a corporate CEO like Julian, they looked absolutely identical to the masterpiece. They glowed beautifully, but they lacked cellular stability. I didn't just leave them there. I introduced a highly specific, genetically engineered RNA interference trigger into their root systems. I essentially programmed a biological logic bomb. I spliced the plants to be highly reactive to two specific, unavoidable environmental catalysts: extremely high concentrations of human exhalation, CO2 from a crowded room, and intense bursts of xenon light, the exact type of high-intensity flashes used by hundreds of paparazzi cameras at a red carpet event. When exposed to those catalysts for more than 30 minutes, the flowers wouldn't just wilt. The enzyme would trigger catastrophic cellular necrosis. The beautiful, glowing black petals would rapidly liquefy, violently rupturing their cell walls and spewing a thick, incredibly foul-smelling, permanent, ink-black biological sludge everywhere. I placed the booby-trapped plants exactly where the mother plants used to be. I kissed Chloe goodbye on Thursday morning. "Have a good weekend, Chloe," I said smoothly. "I'll be in Chicago until Sunday. Please keep an eye on the greenhouse." "Of course, baby," she lied, giving me a sweet, empty smile. "Travel safe." I let her bring the thieves onto my land. I let them steal the bomb. Now they just had to put it in the spotlight. I didn't fly to Chicago. I drove straight to the downtown offices of an attorney specializing in federal agricultural law and intellectual property. I handed my lawyer my original, time-stamped genetic sequencing logs, the official federal patent applications I had secretly expedited and secured in my own name, and the crystal-clear acoustic recordings of Chloe and Julian explicitly conspiring to steal my plants and poison my greenhouse with bleach. But the real weapon wasn't the IP theft. "Arthur," my lawyer said, looking at the messages, "exporting an unregistered, genetically modified biological asset across international borders to the United Kingdom without declaring it to the USDA and CITES customs authorities is a massive, severe federal felony. It is international biosmuggling." We immediately filed a preemptive, highly classified registration of the true DNA sequence with the Department of Agriculture, locking the legal ownership entirely under my LLC. Then we waited. Through the hidden security cameras I had secretly rewired in my greenhouse, I watched the heist happen live. On Friday night, Julian's unmarked, climate-controlled trucks backed up to my loading dock. I watched my wife happily direct men to load my booby-trapped plants into the trucks. Before they left, true to her word, I watched Chloe walk over to my primary hydroponic water reservoir. She opened a gallon of industrial bleach and poured the entire thing into the water supply, intentionally trying to murder every remaining living thing in my sanctuary to cover her tracks. They drove away thinking they had just pulled off the perfect crime. They had no idea they were transporting biological dynamite to London. Saturday night, the Royal Botanical Gala in London, the undisputed center of the global elite horticultural universe. I wasn't in the room, but the global live stream and the subsequent international news reports documented the entire glorious execution. Julian stood proudly on the main stage. The room was packed with European royalty, mega-wealthy investors, and hundreds of aggressive journalists and paparazzi. Chloe was standing in the VIP front row, looking incredibly proud, waiting for her $15 million payday. "Ladies and gentlemen," Julian announced, his voice oozing with arrogance. For years, the scientific community said it was impossible to create true bioluminescence in terrestrial flora. Tonight, my corporate laboratories have defied reality. I present to you the Obsidian Star. He dramatically pulled the velvet drape off the massive glass display case. Inside, the 20 black orchids glowed with a breathtaking, ethereal blue light in the dim ballroom. The crowd gasped in sheer awe. Instantly, the press surged forward. Hundreds of high-intensity xenon camera flashes erupted, bathing the flowers in blinding, rapid-fire strobe light. The room was hot, and the CO2 levels from the massive crowd were peaking. I looked at the clock on my screen. I knew the biology. At exactly the 20-minute mark of continuous camera flashes, the RNA interference trigger hit critical mass. The biological bomb detonated. On the global live broadcast, right in front of the royal family, the magic violently died. The beautiful, glowing blue light in the petals suddenly flickered, turning a sickly, radioactive yellow. A harsh, audible hissing sound echoed from the glass case. The billionaire investors frowned, leaning in. The cellular structure of the flowers completely and catastrophically collapsed. The petals didn't just wilt, they violently ruptured. In a matter of seconds, the majestic orchids melted into a boiling, churning nightmare of thick, opaque, ink-black sludge. But it didn't stop there. The rapid necrosis created intense internal gas pressure. With a sickening, wet pop, the remaining flower bulbs literally exploded. A massive fountain of incredibly foul-smelling, sticky, black biological tar blasted out of the display case. It splattered directly on Julian's custom white tuxedo, covering his face and chest in rotting black slime. The stench of decaying organic matter and sulfur instantly flooded the entire ballroom. The elite crowd screamed in sheer, unadulterated horror. Members of the royal family physically jumped backwards, covering their faces as the black sludge dripped off the stage. "What the hell is happening?" Julian screamed at his assistants, his face covered in black tar, totally unhinged, looking around the room in absolute panic. The investors erupted into chaos. "It's rotting. It smells like death. You brought a biohazard into this room." Chloe dropped her champagne glass. It shattered on the marble floor. She put her hands over her mouth, her face turning the color of wet concrete, looking like she was going to pass out. Before Julian's security could even attempt to escort him off the stage, the heavy oak doors of the ballroom burst open. Plainclothes agents from Interpol and a UK border force marched directly through the fleeing crowd, badges flashing. I took a slow, deeply satisfying sip of my coffee, smiled at the chaotic, screaming live stream, and closed my laptop. You cannot unexplode a rotting biological hazard on a stage in front of European royalty. The fallout was an absolute, unmitigated corporate massacre. Julian was arrested on the spot by Interpol for massive international biosmuggling, customs fraud, and illegally transporting unvetted, genetically modified organisms. Because the foul-smelling sludge had ruined the venue and caused a massive panic, he was hit with millions of dollars in civil lawsuits from the event organizers. When the US Department of Agriculture and the FBI raided his corporate headquarters, they found the stolen data. Julian's entire $500 million empire completely collapsed. His investors pulled their funding immediately. He was ousted as CEO and was facing a decade in federal prison. Chloe's life was vaporized. Julian, realizing he was facing international prison time, immediately threw her to the wolves, telling investigators that she was a rogue floral director who had supplied him with stolen, toxic plants without his knowledge. She was arrested by the FBI the moment she landed back on US soil. I called her from a federal holding cell, sobbing so hard she was hyperventilating. Arthur, please. The FBI arrested me. Julian dumped me. The flowers exploded into sludge. You have to tell them you made a mistake with the genetics. Please, I have nothing. I didn't make a mistake, Chloe, I said calmly, leaning back against my lab table. I gave you exactly what you stole. You just forgot to do your biological stress tests. I have the video of you pouring bleach into my water supply, by the way. I hope you enjoy the fluorescent lights in federal court. I hung up and blocked her number. During our divorce settlement, she had absolutely zero leverage. Because she was a federally indicted felon facing charges for conspiring to steal a $15 million marital asset and intentionally destroying property, the judge showed zero mercy. He awarded me 100% of our marital assets, the house, and my entire greenhouse. She walked away with massive legal debt and a permanently ruined life. It's been almost 3 years since that gala in London. A month after the arrests, I retrieved the real, flawless obsidian star mother plants from the university vault. Working in absolute peace, I officially launched the strain. It was perfect. I sold the exclusive cloning and distribution patents to a highly respected, ethical botanical firm in Europe for $18 million. I paid off all my debts, bought a massive new commercial genetic research facility, and I now take bespoke conservation commissions purely for the love of science. I never have to answer to a corporate boss or worry about funding ever again. Last I heard, Chloe avoided a long prison sentence by taking a plea deal, but she is completely blacklisted from the event and floral industries globally. She is currently working at a budget grocery store, trimming dead leaves off cheap $5 bouquets, knowing every single day that she held a $15 million masterpiece and willingly turned it into toxic sludge. Julian is currently serving 7 years in a federal penitentiary, completely bankrupt, his agricultural empire reduced to a punchline. If there is a lesson to be learned here, it's this. A beautiful bloom means absolutely nothing if the roots underneath are rotten. If your partner thinks they can use you as fertilizer, steal your genius, and leave you to wither in the dirt while they take the applause, don't panic. Don't fight them for the garden. Smile, hand them the shears, and let them confidently plant your creation in the brightest spotlight in the world. And right when they think they've won the harvest, just wait for the flash and watch the rot completely consume them. Thanks for listening to my story. If you enjoyed this one, drop a like, hit subscribe, and let me know in the comments what's the most satisfying public disaster you've ever witnessed. Stay sharp, trust the science, and always check the soil.